Good morning, everyone. On behalf of my fellow classmates, the awesome class of 2025, we'd like to welcome you to our inaugural breakfast with purpose, celebrating the school that works. I am Christina Moore, a senior at Detroit Cristo Rey High School, currently working at Adient for my corporate work study position.
And I am Juan Barba, a senior at Detroit Cristo Rey working at General Motors. My corporate work study position. Thanks to all our esteemed guests for starting your day with us. I would like to invite our fellow classmate Esteban Vargas to start this morning as we do each morning with a prayer.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. First of all, thank you, Lord, for another day of life. Thank you, Lord, for the meal we just had. Thank you, Lord, for our guest speaker, JoAnn Chavez. Help us to understand the message she has for us today. Amen. Mother, Father, Son.
Thank you, Esteban, who works in the alumni office at Detroit Cristo Rey. We are also thankful for all of you guys, our donors, like yourselves. Class 2025 is very excited to be here with you and join you guys at the table. It is a sort of field trip for us this morning. We would also like to get a little break from our classes every now and then, and from our college applications mostly, because as we know, they can be stressful at times.
That's right. At Detroit Cristo Rey, we provided the opportunity to experience the business world through the corporate work study program. It is called Work Study because we recognize the real work to prepare for college happens in the classroom. And we are grateful for just having dedicated teachers who help us prepare for our next chapter. Thank you.
This morning, we have the chance to hear from JoAnn Chavez, Senior Vice President and Chief Legal Officer for DTE Energy. She will be joined by our fellow classmate, Kaylee Razo. Kaylee is currently working at Brooks Cushman and aspires to work in the legal field. Please welcome Kaylee.
Ms. Chavez is responsible for management of the strategic direction of DTE's Office of General Counsel and advises DTE's Board of Directors and senior management of legal and related matters. Ms. Chavez is also the responsibility for the oversight and ethics of corporate security, corporate emergency management, and tax.
Ms. Chavez earned a Bachelor's of Business Administration and a Juris Doctor from the University of Notre Dame. Go Irish.
Go Irish.
Ms. Chavez is a strong advocate for young people and is the founder of the Michigan Hispanic Collaborative, a Michigan nonprofit that focuses on economic equality and provides opportunities for first-generation Hispanic students to communities, and most recently served as a board member of the Cristo Rey Network. Please welcome Ms. JoAnn Chavez.
Thank you for those thoughtful introductions, Juan and Christina. It's truly remarkable to have someone of your achievements with us today. Your journey, JoAnn, is not only impressive, but also incredibly inspirational. And I'm sure the audience is eager to dive deeper into your experiences and insights, right? Can you start off by telling us more about your background and upbringing so we can get more insight about who you are as a person?
Sure, thank you. And thank you so much for having me. Thank you to all of the sponsors and work study partners. It is probably one of the most important things that you do. You may not realize it, but giving our young underserved students opportunities. That's all they need, opportunities. So thank you. And I say that, based on personal experience. I was born in Southwest Detroit. My parents were both born in Southwest Detroit. On my mom's side, we are 6th generation American. They were in Texas and the border moved on them. And my dad's side, we're 2nd generation. So it took over 125 years for our family to have a college graduate, me. And that's not good. It wasn't that my parents didn't work hard and weren't smart. I just think prior generations did not have opportunities. And that's why I believe in opportunities and education. It's really at the heart of who I am. My parents dropped out of Western International High School, not very far from here, and it's where my collaborative had their first cohort of students, because I believe education is what is the marker of my success. That's it. I'm not special. There is nothing unique about me. It is just that I had remarkable opportunities. And we had strong family values. And, at first we had no money. My dad earned $1 an hour. He'd get picked up behind the old Detroit Free Press building and he'd go deliver handbills. This is when I was born. My mom and he married quite young. She was 16 going on 17. He was 19 going on 20. So it's just what our people did back then. And I think that they both really did their best, but it wasn't perfect. It wasn't an easy house to live in, right? My mom recently passed, and I finally came to terms with she had done the best that she could. And guess what? She produced me, right? So we all carry things in our lives. Believe it or not, there are very few Cleaver families. And the kids don't know who the Cleavers are, but I know everyone else does. But, I think growing up when there's great dysfunction in your home, not enough money, just nothing seems to go well, you always think someone must have it so much easier than I do. And I think it took me a long time to realize that everyone has their own struggles. Everyone carries their own baggage. Here's the difference, though. I've never let my baggage be an obstacle, right? Thankfully, I have a great skill of resilience and compartmentalization. So I can put, the Chavez family, the Rodriguez family on the shelf there and still survive. The other thing I think, when I think about my family, was that they had faith in me. I don't know why. My dad, I had one sister, and she died in 2015, excess drugs and alcohol. I adopted her 3 kids in 2000. But I don't know why they had the faith. Maybe he saw something. But, he knew I had to have an education. So I think about it. My sister, who was not doing well anywhere, he didn't push as hard, but he saw that I was trying and I was doing well. So he pushed. I joke, B's were never good enough for my father, right? And this is a guy who eventually got a skilled trades job at the former Chrysler, now Stellantis, and worked on the assembly line. The most important thing, though, that he taught me, he said, I want you to have the opportunity to earn a living with your brain, not your back. And it's why he continued to push. It's why he pushed for Notre Dame when we knew nothing about it. Nothing.
Thank you, JoAnn. I know you mentioned your experience as a first-generation student, and many of the amazing students here in our crowd are also going to be the first in their families to attend college. What advice would you give to these amazing students who may feel overwhelmed by the idea of pursuing higher education?
Oh, it is overwhelming. And it's definitely overwhelming when you attend schools where people, and that's most of our schools in Michigan, they're PWIs, primarily white institutions. And nobody looks like you. But I'm going to take you even worse. When I attended the University of Notre Dame, they just admitted women in 1972. I got there, and I'm going to date myself, in 1982. So only 10 years of women. So imagine, very few people of color, unless you were an athlete, and 3 men for every 1 female. 3 males. I would say, though, I used it as an opportunity. So here's what I would tell you. Put your fear in a box. Put it in your core of your stomach. Let it be your energy. Let it be the thing that helps you fight your way through it. I'm telling you, I came in to Notre Dame. We had no money, nothing. I sewed my own clothes. My grandma had taught me how to sew. So I made my own clothes. We got a manual typewriter. I brought my manual typewriter. And remember, the other problem with Notre Dame, it's not a problem. It is that they were all very wealthy, right? Except for the kids that worked with me in the dining hall, right? So what I did was seize upon a remarkable opportunity. Again, all we are is looking for opportunities, guys. I seized an opportunity to learn from people who had experienced life very differently than I had, right? Not to say that they didn't have their own issues, because I'm sure they all did. But they had still grown up with privilege. They'd grown up with different experiences. I often joke, I didn't grow up reading Chaucer and Bronte and Dickens. You know, I just grew up reading whatever I could buy for $1. I think that I want you to put your fears aside and allow yourselves to experience everything. If your network only looks like you in college, you have the wrong network. While it's nice to have your Latino cohorts and friends because they are your security blanket, they have had similar experiences as you. Not all of them, but some of them. So reach out. I got to live in New York City because the former CFO of the Chase Manhattan Bank went to Notre Dame. He took 20 kids from the university to live in New York City as an undergrad. Can you imagine? 22 years old, and I was living in New York. How remarkable is that? I had only been on an airplane for the first time the year prior, right? I got those opportunities because I allowed myself to learn, to grow, to not be ashamed of who I was, but also not let my financial position in life that I came to Notre Dame with be an obstacle. It's all about fear. It's all about the story in our head. I'm going to tell you a little secret. I still carry fear. I still, at times, am not sure that I belong, right? I often say that the tables I sit at were never constructed for me, both literally and figuratively. I'm 5'0", right? And so you sit at these big tables and these big chairs and you hope your feet don't dangle. But I still have it, but I know how to push it aside, because guess what? I'm sitting in that table because I earned it. You are earning your positions at the universities and colleges that you will all attend. And we don't just do this for ourselves. We do this for all of our ancestors, because we stand on the shoulders of remarkable people. Whether you knew them or not, they were remarkable. I know my family came up from Texas in search of the American dream during the Industrial Revolution here. Everybody wanted to work for the autos, right? And there was great racism in South Texas, a little different than in the South for the African American community, but not completely. There was segregation in the buses, segregation in the schools. We called them the Juan Crow laws, not the Jim Crow laws. So making sure that you remember that this fight, this thing we do every day, is not just for us. Remember that. It is the reason I pushed myself to become the general counsel. Pushed. I invited myself to the table. I told them, this is the job I want. And then I proved to them how great I was. I do not take this lightly, and I hope you don't either, because I think it is so important for you to avail yourself of everything that the universities and colleges that you will attend will offer you. And don't let fear be the obstacle. You're going to have it, yes, we all do. But push it aside. Let it be your energy, right? Mm-hmm. and then stand tall. This little 5-foot woman can fill any room she wants to, right? And I often think of myself, I just came back from Notre Dame football this weekend, as like a 6'4" linebacker. I don't even know what a linebacker does. But I know they're big, right? They're big and they're beefy, and that's who I am. Rest assured, it is no joke, right? I always laugh at this. People say there's a joke at DTE that people are afraid of me. I don't understand. I'm just this little thing.
JoAnn, obviously your identity and your background has instilled you with many very important values that you carry into every aspect of your life. How do you think these values that you develop from your identity and your background impact your perspective on workplace diversity and inclusion?
Well, it's core to who I am, right? It's core to who I am. I was a DEI person before there was ever DEI, right? Years ago. So I was formerly a partner at KPMG before I came to DTE almost 18 years ago. And I remember they would send me out because there were very few black and brown partners, very few of us. And so I would get to go recruit at all of the NABA conferences, that's the National Association of Black Accountants, and go visit all of the MBA programs that had black and brown kids. And I found that I loved doing that. Why? Because I was able to show people that anyone could do what I do. Everyone can do what I do, right? And I think that is what is most critical, right? It's our ability to let our students, let our people see what you can be, right? So I still take phone calls from anybody who calls my office is invited to my office. It doesn't matter what level you are at DTE. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be Arabic, you could be Mexican, you could be African American, and they all come in and see me, right? And I think it's because I try not to take myself too seriously. Yes, I have a big job. Yes, I have a big role. For those of you who don't know, I'm one of 6 Latinas in the Fortune 500 who are general counsel. The thing I would remind you all is that having my role, having the life that I've led is a privilege. It wasn't a right, not in my family. It was a privilege that I earned and fought for and worked really hard for. That means that I have an obligation to repay. And that's why I've created the programs I've created at DTE. It's why I founded the Michigan Hispanic Collaborative. It's why I continue to want to spend time with the kids at Cristo Rey and other underserved communities to make sure, and I say underserved, there's nothing more than they don't get everything that the kid at Pioneer High School gets, right? That's the only difference. So it is our job to bring equity to it, to bring every resource that we can to all of our kids, right? Because you're all capable. All of you are capable. And I expect you all to do things greater than I've ever done. I tell people that the collaborative will have probably some NGO leaders, because everybody wants to do that. We'll have a few social workers, but my greatest pride will be when I have my first CEO, when I have my first college president. I have to tell you that I got a picture yesterday from a young man who has the Chavez Family Fellowship at Notre Dame Law School. It's for Latino students who want to attend law school. And he came from Toledo. He worked at DTE in my summer talent program, and I helped him get his first job, and he is going to be a tax lawyer at Mayer Brown, which is one of the AmLaw 100 law firms in this country. This is a first-generation kid, right, who was able to do something really remarkable just with some opportunities, just with some exposure. And don't worry, you're going to be a tax lawyer too, Kaylee.
JoAnn, many of the students here might identify with the group that you're targeting, the Michigan Hispanic Collaborative. Many might even be interested in the program themselves. What impact or legacy do you hope these initiatives that you're taking to bring to decrease the gap in education opportunities for lower income students of color, first generation students who might not be able to get these resources otherwise?
Well, I don't want a legacy. So I do nothing, I hope no one ever remembers my name. And I say this with a great deal of humility. I mean it. I hope they remember the Michigan Hispanic Collaborative. That's what I want them to remember. I want them to remember that there were people who believed in them, people who knew that if they were just given a little bit of opportunity, that they would conquer the universe. That's what I want to see. And again, I want to see my CEO. I am grooming them. I want to expose them to things that they normally wouldn't be exposed to. What I found out at DTE when we ran our summer talent exposure program was that many of the kids wanted to be things that they saw in the community. And they also wanted to make a difference in the community, hence the immigration lawyer that I hear from. Every young person that wants to be a lawyer that's Latino generally wants to be an immigration lawyer. That's a great, great profession. Here's what I talked to my dad about before I moved to New York City and became a tax lawyer. He said, you know, honey, he said, Mija, my daughter, I don't want you to be poor the rest of your life. You have an opportunity that I didn't have, that our family didn't have. And it's not just about money, it's about security. It's about power. It's about sitting at these tables, right? I want you all to be members of the DAC. And they have only let women in for a few years too. But I want you all to walk through the front door with pride because we've earned all of this. Mm-hmm. That's what I want the collaborative to be able to offer you. But it is you who come to the table with your great skills, your great characters, right? I always tell everyone, I'm not the smartest woman in the room, but I can outwork anyone, anyone. Even my CEO, I remember he said, oh, I think you're working too hard. Wow, who says that? Right? But that's who we are. Those are our values. We believe in our family. I gave up my job as a partner at KPMG because I took custody of my 2 nieces and nephew. I had just become partner in 2000, traveling all over the world because I was in international tax. And I gave it up because my 2 nieces and nephew needed me. They needed me. So I resigned from the partnership. I took a small job. But look, I always say God had a purpose for me. And I'm not overly religious, but I'm extremely spiritual. And I know that I was given this resiliency. I was given this determination so that I could pave a better life for my 2 nieces, now my kids, my 3 kids, who are now 28, 29, and 30, right? So that I could ensure that my broader family would be able to not just survive, but grow and blossom. That's what I want for all of you.
You mentioned sitting at the big tables and having those high-level positions. What are some advice that you have for students who may be wanting to create more opportunities for themselves, to look for those opportunities and make sure that they can make it to those tables that you mentioned?
Learn, watch, observe. Every table, every room that you work in and walk into have rules. Rules that no one's going to hand out to you, rules that no one's ever going to explain to you. So go into the room and watch. Watch, observe, see who the power players are in the room. It becomes quite evident very quickly who owns the table, right? Who is the decision maker? How do the other people accept feedback and enjoy the conversation? I didn't have anyone telling me those things, so I probably made a lot of mistakes. I often say that I traveled this road alone. Imagine what I really could have been. Imagine if someone had pointed out these little things. So I would tell you, learn from your peers and dominate your box. Oftentimes, we are looking to save the community that we came from. That's our first and foremost thing that we want to do once we get a great job. The other thing we want to do is progress quickly, right? Progress quickly. I had a former CEO, and he always said, dominate your box. Be great at what you do first, because that gives you the credibility at the table. So I probably talk too much. I'm a little bit loud. I move my hands all the time. But guess what? I can do that now because I report to the CEO. Right? You can't do that as a young intern. You could, but what you don't want anyone to do is judge you. The world is not a meritocracy. I hate to break it to everyone, but it's not. It is not. You will find pockets of places that will accept you because you're great and they'll move you along, but then there's always this limit, right? And so we often think, how do we break into the club? I'm going to learn your rules, and then I'm going to beat you at them. That's how you break into the club. I'm going to watch. I'm going to observe. I'm going to make sure I understand exactly what your rules are. And they will change. The dynamics will shift. In 2019, I became the general counsel of DTE, right before COVID. And I remember going to my first executive committee meeting. Right? It's with the top 12 people, leaders at DTE. And you walk into the room and you're thinking, I knew them all individually, but I didn't know the collective rules. I didn't know what was happening at this table. And probably for the first time in my life, JoAnn was quiet because I needed to watch. This was the biggest power table I'd ever sat at, right? Here's what I want you to know. When I finished law school, before I finished, I worked for the migrant farm workers for a summer, and I worked for the public defender for another summer. So at heart, I'm an ACLU lawyer, right? But again, talking to my father, I don't want you to spend your entire life impoverished, right? And that's what could have happened had I accepted one of those roles. So I became a tax lawyer, and what you quickly learn is that you're going to just watch these tables and you're going to grow and learn, right? These tables of power have allowed me to have a nonprofit that has a $6 million budget now, right? After 5 years, we are 5 years old, but I'm able to run a nonprofit that knows how to have a lobbyist. I'm able to run a nonprofit that knows how to be judicious with every little dollar that we have, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you can combine your great talents and your love for your community through a career that can earn money, I'm not saying you have to. We need everybody. I need you in municipalities, I need you running the city, I need you running everything. But I also need you running corporate America, which I don't see enough of. And so I want you to know you're still able to help your community. Mm-hmm. I sit on a lot of foundation boards, right? And I'm able to dole out money as well as give my own money. So remember, the Honorable Sonia Sotomayor said, money itself isn't bad. What defines us is what we do with our money. So if you earn, you can give back. And I think I help more people now than I would have had I been my public defender lawyer, had I been my migrant legal services lawyer. And again, this is JoAnn's path. It's not all of your paths. Your paths are not going to be wrong. I just want you to broaden your horizon.
Thank you so much for that thoughtful response. What does leading your community mean to you, and how do you think the young people in this crowd can actively participate in that mission?
Leading your community, in my mind, means being great at the stage you're at. Great. And what does that mean? It means developing the skills, so watching learning. If I'm in high school, how am I learning how to be a leader? Well, there's tons of opportunities within the high school environment. There are tons of opportunities in the work-study program to learn how to be a leader. But being a leader does not mean you have to be a leader of 1,000 people. You first have to learn how to lead yourself. Lead yourself. Dominate. Be great at it. Be open-minded. Learn, read, watch, grow. And at each stage, just never forget what your number one priority is. When I meet college students who are at great universities who maybe aren't performing well, I first ask them about everything they're doing. And what I usually find is, in addition to work, and I worked about 30 hours a week when I was in college, which was too much. In addition to their work study, they're also trying to be leaders and Alpha and SHIP and NABA and every other college program. And while it's nice, your job is to be great at college. Your job is to dominate your box. So I would recommend that at every age, at every level you're at, you figure out what your primary responsibility is and dominate it. I quit my job as a partner because my job at that point in time was to learn how to be a great parent. I had no kids, I was single. I had to learn how to be a parent, and that was my job. And if I wasn't good at that, shame on me. But I will tell you that the rewards are still showing up for me. I'm on my third career. My third. How blessed am I, right, for doing the right thing by our family, by our community. So I would suggest that your community leadership is an evolution. For years, I wrote checks. That's what I could do. It's what I could afford to do because I needed to be a partner, right? I needed to take care of kids. I needed to do the things that were my primary responsibilities. So I would say focus on primary, pick up one side, and if you're working a lot, then that is your side. That's your side. And focus on those things. You will never regret it, I promise you. You have a life ahead of you to be a leader. But being a leader also means knowing how to make the difficult decisions. So don't forget that.
Thank you so much. I think that information is really helpful to all the students here. And I know that a lot of my classmates are very passionate, they're very driven, they have an idea of what they want to be in life. And because of that, many of them are striving for greatness. But it's naive to say that in the pursuit for greatness that they won't face challenges. I think because of their background, because of the lack of opportunities, they may face many hardships. What is your advice to them on keeping resilience and continuing despite challenges?
Stay focused. Again, put fear in the little box. Let it either be your battery or just put it in the box so it doesn't distract you, right? So put fear aside. I think that's first and foremost. And then you keep forging ahead. And don't compare yourself to others. I just told a colleague this. I've never competed with any of my peers. I only compete with myself. I am going to be the best JoAnn Chavez possible. Each of you should stay focused on that. It is daunting if we continually compare ourselves to others, especially in a world that is still highly inequitable. So you need to stay focused on your goals, your dreams, but also be agile. When I quit the partnership, I didn't know what was going to happen to my life after that. All I knew is that I had 3 kids that needed me. And I tried to do that as well as I could. And then after that, the things continued to come. Just do what's right. Stay focused. And don't let, God never gives us more than we can handle. And I'll tell you, at times I'm thinking I've been dealt a pretty heavy deck. It's heavy, it's weighing me down, right? But I can tell you in hindsight that I handled each of those with grace and dignity as best as I could. And I know each of you can as well. But sometimes we have to rely on a little faith, right? Faith. Faith is what got me out of bed when I had 3 small kids, all facing significant challenges. My oldest was born with crack cocaine in her system. And so it was significant. And I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this all by myself? I figured it out, and so can you, because I am not a genius. You don't have to be a genius. You take everything that we've grown up with, right? All of our integrity, all of our family values, all of our work ethic, and that will get us through. And that I promise you. And if it doesn't, you call me, and I will show you how to get it through.
Finally, JoAnn, what is one key piece of advice that you wish you had received when you were younger?
Probably the most important piece of advice is listen more. Listen more. You know, as a young Latina growing up in a household with, you know, a large Latino family, we talk over each other. We don't listen very well all the time. In fact, I had to finally explain that to my CEO. I said, you don't understand. I grew up at a table where everyone was speaking loudly. We weren't screaming because we weren't mad, but we were just speaking very loudly and energetically over one another. And so I probably early on in my career had a tendency not to listen well enough. I still am not sure I'm a great listener, but I would recommend that you listen. Listen. Don't feel compelled to fill the silence. Listen. Because as you listen, it's going to give you the power. It's going to teach you the rules that you need to be successful. So I think I wish I had learned to listen more.
Well, thank you so much, JoAnn. I can see in the face of my classmates that they're really inspired by your story. And I'm hoping that they will take these lessons into the real world and use them to help them navigate college, career, or whatever they have in coming after high school. Thank you so much. And we have a little gift for you, too.
Thank you. Oh, my gosh.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to need help. Are we going to take a picture up here with my colleagues over here? My incredible colleagues. You have to give them all a round of applause. Nice job. Especially want to thank Kaylee. She was a great interviewer, like a pro.
Thank you.
Ms. Chavez, thank you so much. Your story and your words of advice is very inspirational for us all at Cristo Rey.
Yes, it was. And Kaylee, thank you for being our monitor. We also want to thank all of our sponsorships who made today and our tomorrows possible, such as Henry Ford Health, DTE Foundation, Gigi Myung, Tanya and Juan Nano Whelan, Kids Attorneys and Counselors PC, Comerica Bank, PNC Bank, Lynch & Sons, Steve Walker, Pace Southern Michigan, Laura and Mike Cokes, Patrick Lee, Alliance Catholic Credit Union, St. John's Resort, Polite Family Charitable Foundation. Thank you.
Yes, at your tables you'll find today's program, which lists all of our sponsors. There's also a QR code printed in the program that links to a site you can help support more experiences like this and the mission of Detroit Cristo Rey. Donors and our corporate work study partners like yourself ensure that our fellow classmates and our younger classmates are able to go to and through college. Thank you all for coming and have a great day.
Good morning, everyone. One last thing, I just wanted to, I was told by Nicole Gies, who was able to pull this thing together in about 30 days, that I was not allowed to speak. And it's hard to keep an Irishman from speaking if there's ever a chance. And I just want to extend my real heartfelt thanks to JoAnn for coming out here at very last minute type of a thing to pull together. It is funny because I was at that same game this weekend at Notre Dame and was able to think about what a special place it is. And I never would have believed in my entire life that an Irish guy like me who went to Michigan and is a Wolverine would ever think that one of the fighting Irish that I know that's the toughest, most resilient people around is a Latina, and it's JoAnn Chavez. So thank you so much. Kaylee, Christina, Esteban, and Juan, I also want to thank you for representing your senior class. Fantastic job. Really appreciate the hard work and dedication that you put into everything that you do. We had a special event this morning when I was whisking the four of them over here early and getting into the parking lot and trying to rush here, and we ran into Monsignor Zenz. And he gave a special blessing to these students, the four, including me too, which I appreciated because we weren't there at the school for our normal prayer at 7:30. So it was a really nice way to kick off and start this morning in a very, very special way. I also want to thank all of our guests that came, taking time out of your morning, our board members and all of our partners and all of our supporters. Really, this can't be done without you. And so, as JoAnn said, there are ways that you can help support, and those ways are right on your table right now. I really appreciate you taking a little bit of time with that. And one last thing, I just want to thank Nicole Gies and the team that pulled this together in a very short amount of time. Glad she had good connections to make this a turnkey event, but one where we get to celebrate our students and to celebrate what's possible with those opportunities, with just given a chance, the impact that we can make in the world. It's all available to us, and our students are living it. So we really appreciate everyone's time today, time this morning. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.